We call this planet Earth, but that name is a profound deception. 70% of our world is not land at all, but a vast global ocean. An alien world, more mysterious to us than the craters of the moon or the rust-red deserts of Mars. We gaze upon its serene blue expanse and imagine a realm of perfect calm. We dip beneath the waves and hear only the soothing rhythm of the surf. From this, we built a beautiful myth, a myth of a silent world. We believed that in the crushing, inky blackness below, a place untouched by a single ray of sunlight, there existed only an eternal, sepulchral hush. A realm of stasis, a place where the pulse of life itself seemed to cease. But that illusion was about to be shattered. Not by what we could see, but by what we could hear. 11 kilometers beneath the surface of the Pacific, the Earth bears a scar. A deep, crescent-shaped wound in its crust, the Mariana Trench. And at its nadir, the Challenger Deep, the most profound depth on our world. Here, the pressure reaches 1,086 atmospheres, the equivalent of more than a ton pressing down on every square centimeter. The water itself is compressed to such an extreme that its very physical properties begin to warp, becoming dense, viscous. The temperature hovers just above freezing. In 2014, science made a daring move. A team of researchers from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, decided to listen to this abyss. They engineered a unique instrument, a hydrophone encased in a titanium sphere, built to withstand a pressure that would obliterate a human being in an instant. Inside, a ceramic microphone, sensitive to frequencies far beyond the range of human hearing, was powered for 3 weeks of continuous recording. They lowered it into the void. For 6 hours, it descended. The team expected to record nothing more than a dull, ambient hiss, the sound of silence itself. But when the device surfaced 3 weeks later and its data was finally processed, what echoed through the laboratory was not silence. It was a revelation that bordered on horror. The abyss was not silent. It was screaming. A cacophony of groans, shrieks, and metallic grinding. The ambient noise level at the deepest point on Earth was found to be higher than in the heart of a bustling modern city. It was a symphony of destruction. Sounds that resembled the workings of some titanic subterranean machine, the complex calls of whales, a language once mistaken for extraterrestrial signals. And beneath it all, the low, relentless grinding of tectonic plates, chewing continents into dust. But threaded through this primordial noise was a more disturbing truth. The pervasive hum of our ships and industries, turning what should be the quietest sanctuary on the planet into an acoustic chamber of torment. To understand how we first opened our ears to the deep, we must travel back in time, back to an age of paranoia, the 1950s. At the height of the Cold War, the world stood on the precipice of nuclear annihilation. The great silent world we had imagined never existed. It was always a place of profound and terrible noise. We were merely deaf to its cries. And now that we can finally hear, we are forced to listen not only to the planet's hidden symphony, but to the dissonant, inescapable echo of ourselves. In the depths of the Cold War, the Soviet Union unleashes a ghost fleet. Crimson hunters, nuclear-powered and armed with apocalypse, slip beneath the waves. They can hide anywhere, their presence a silent, constant threat. A cold panic grips the American Admiralty. They need ears, global ears. In the utmost secrecy, the United States Navy initiates Project SOSUS, the Sound Surveillance System. It is an engineering feat of unimaginable scale. Thousands of miles of armored cable are spooled out across the floors of the Atlantic and Pacific. Hundreds of stationary hydrophones are anchored to the edges of continental shelves and the cold slopes of undersea mountains. The military has weaponized the very physics of the ocean. They have harnessed a phenomenon known as the Deep Sound Channel, or SOFAR. At a depth between 600 and 1,200 meters, a unique layer of water is formed by the interplay of temperature, salinity, and pressure. Here, sound becomes a prisoner. It cannot escape upwards into the warmer layers, nor downwards into the denser, crushing deep. It is funneled horizontally, traveling for immense distances with almost no loss of energy, as if through a fiber optic cable woven by nature itself. A single hand grenade, detonated in the SOFAR channel off the coast of Australia, could be clearly heard in Bermuda just a few hours later. It is the planet's own telephone wire. Buried in concrete bunkers on classified bases, SOSUS operators sat in silence, headphones pressed to their ears. They listened. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They became the world's most elite acousticians, learning to decipher the ocean's grand symphony. They knew the signature hum of a Soviet submarine's propellers, the percussive sound of rain on the surface, the mournful groan of Arctic ice, the haunting songs of humpback whales, which were, at first, mistaken for the pulse of enemy sonar. But sometimes a sound would emerge from the static that defied all classification. A sound that made the hair on their arms stand on end. It was too loud for any known animal, too organic for any machine, too rhythmic for any volcano. In secret logbooks, these events were marked with stark, uncertain codes. Anomaly, biological origin, unknown, source unidentified. For decades, these tapes gathered dust in the archives of the Pentagon, sealed under the highest levels of classification. Only after the fall of the Berlin Wall in the 1990s did the military finally lift the veil. They granted civilian scientists access to their trove of acoustic data. And the world was introduced to the first monster. A sound given the name Bloop. The summer of 1997, the equatorial Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile. A vast array of hydrophones, calibrated to hunt submarines, suddenly goes wild. Sensors spread across 5,000 kilometers of ocean floor record the same signal at virtually the same instant. A signal of incredible power. It was named Bloop. But the name is a deception. This was no gentle bubble. It was a roar. A deep, guttural, ultra-low frequency roar rising from the abyss. A sound that began at the very edge of perception and climbed steadily in pitch for 1 full minute. We had built a global net to listen for our enemies. Instead, we had recorded the voice of the deep itself. And in that moment, we were forced to confront a humbling truth, that in the vast, crushing darkness of our own world, there are things far older, far larger, and far more mysterious than we had ever dared to imagine. It was the classic signature of a living thing, the kind of call made by whales, by dolphins. But the scale, the sheer power of this signal, was of a different order entirely. It was heard across the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. To generate a sound of such magnitude, the source would need the energy of a small nuclear device, or it would have to be an organism the size of a city. Biologists were confounded. The blue whale, the largest animal to have ever lived on Earth, is 30 meters in length. Its call can reach 188 decibels, louder than a jet airliner at takeoff, and can be heard for 1,000 miles. But the Bloop, as it was named, was several times more powerful than the cry of the mightiest blue whale. If this was an animal, the laws of biophysics dictated it would have to be the size of the Eiffel Tower. Speculation ran wild. A colossal squid, a creature of myth, an ancient reptile surviving in the crushing blackness of the abyss. The coordinates of the sound's origin, 50 degrees south latitude, 100 degrees west longitude, were unnervingly close to the location of the sunken city of R'lyeh from the fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. Fans of the fantastic rejoiced. Scientists were in disarray. For 10 years, science offered no answer. For 10 years, spectrograms were analyzed in silence. And then, the solution arrived. It was not biological, but it was no less terrifying. It was the cry of dying ice. In Antarctica, 1,000 kilometers from the listening sensors, a colossal iceberg had calved from an ice shelf. Millions of tons of ice fractured and plunged into the sea. The phenomenon is known as an ice quake. As the ice breaks, it generates an acoustic wave of immense power. This sound entered the deep sound channel, a layer in the ocean that allows sound to travel for thousands of miles, its structure preserved, but stretched by time and distance. Planet. The Bloop was the voice of our melting polar caps. The mystery was solved. Humanity exhaled. There were no monsters. But this was a false comfort. Because in 2014, a microphone was lowered to a place where there is no ice. It was lowered into the Mariana Trench, and what it heard there could not be blamed on a calving glacier. The year, 2014. The location, the Challenger Deep. The depth, 11 kilometers. The temperature, a single degree above freezing. A hydrophone rested on the sea floor. Scientists expected to hear silence, at most the gentle whisper of settling silt. But the recordings revealed that the abyss thrummed with the life of a vast, industrial factory. And amidst the constant ambient drone, one sound cut through. It was sharp, unpleasant, frightening, and it was regular. A shrieking, grinding, metallic noise. Imagine a freight train locking all of its wheels against steel rails, but the sound is slowed and amplified 100-fold. Or imagine a giant sheet of rusted steel being dragged across a concrete floor. Acousticians have called it a metallic storm. The sound occupied a vast frequency range, from a deep, gut-vibrating bass to an ultrasonic screech that sliced through the water. It lasted between 2.5 and 3.5 seconds, fell silent, and then repeated. Again and again. The Bloop had an answer, a chilling testament to the world we are unmaking. But this new voice, from the deepest point on Earth, has no such explanation. It is a signal from a place we can barely reach, a mechanical ghost in the planet's darkest heart. We went looking for monsters and found only ourselves. Now, in the true abyss, we listen to a sound we cannot comprehend and are forced to wonder, what else have we failed to imagine? The first hypotheses were born of technology and warfare. A falling satellite, perhaps, or a missile gone astray. Some imagined a nuclear submarine succumbing to the crushing dark, its titanium hull groaning one last time before implosion. Others whispered of secret drilling operations, of unknown machines burrowing into the seabed. But in this remote region, there were no ships. The nearest land, the island of Guam, lay 300 kilometers distant. The surface of the ocean was a vast, silent emptiness. The sound did not come from above. It rose from the walls of the trench itself, from the rock, from stone. To comprehend the nature of this grinding, one must look at a map of the tectonic plates. The Mariana Trench. It is not merely a chasm, it is a scar, a crime scene on a planetary scale. Here lies a subduction zone, the collision point of two titans. The colossal Pacific Plate, the largest on Earth, drives relentlessly westward. It is ancient, 170 million years old, cold, dense, and heavy. It meets the younger Philippine Plate, and in this slow-motion impact, the Pacific Plate is losing. It dives, forced down beneath its rival, descending into the Earth's mantle, into a molten hell. This is a process of planetary cannibalism. The crust of our world, destroyed right here in real time. The Earth is eating itself. We are accustomed to thinking of continental drift as a slow, imperceptible process, moving at the speed of a growing fingernail. But at a depth of 11 kilometers, beneath a column of water weighing billions of tons, the friction is unimaginable. The plates do not glide. They are rough, jagged. They catch on one another with protrusions the size of mountains. For centuries, the stress builds. And then a microslip, a jolt. Rock grinds against rock. Billions of tons of basalt pulverizing billions of tons of granite. That metallic screech, recorded by the hydrophone, is the groan of the Earth's crust. It is the acoustic signature of subduction. Bodies of materials are warped. Water is compressed. The rock is under such tension that it rings, and dense basalt conducts sound better than steel. We have heard the engine of our planet at work, and this engine is straining to its breaking point. The grinding is the sound of accumulating stress, and stress, sooner or later, is released. This sound is the harbinger of a megaquake. When the screeching stops and the plate lurches forward, not by a millimeter, but by a meter, a tsunami will be born, one that could scour the coasts of Asia and the Americas. The sound from the abyss is the ticking of a countdown time. But if the grinding of plates can be explained by geology, the next sound would leave biologists in stunned silence. Amid the geologic roar, the hydrophone caught a signal that was utterly alien. Scientists named it the Western Pacific biotwang. Had you heard it in a theater during a film about distant galaxies, you would have dismissed it as a special effect. One sound speaks of the planet's immense, grinding power, a force we can understand, even as we fear it. The other speaks a language we do not recognize at all, a reminder that in the deepest, darkest corners of our own world, we are still strangers, listening for a voice we may never comprehend. It begins with a vibration, a deep, guttural moan that resonates not in the ears, but in the very pit of the stomach. At roughly 30 hertz, it skirts the lowest threshold of human hearing. Then, a second sound slices through the deep, a sharp, synthetic shriek, climbing to an astonishing 8,000 hertz. It is the sound of a metal string, stretched to its breaking point and struck. The sound of a blaster firing in a science fiction epic. This signal is so clean, so mechanical and rhythmic, that for months in sterile laboratories, it was dismissed. An anomaly. A phantom echo from military sonar, perhaps, or a simple malfunction in the sensitive hydrophones. But the sound returned. insistent. It was alive. No known creature in the vast catalogue of life produces such a call. Whales sing their melodic, haunting refrains. Dolphins click and whistle. But to bridge the chasm from an infrasonic bass to a near ultrasonic cry in one short burst requires a vocal apparatus beyond imagining. What breath, all while enduring the crushing pressure of 1,000 atmospheres in total darkness. The investigation took 2 years. A sophisticated artificial intelligence cross-referenced the strange signal, now known as the biotwang, against a global database of every known marine mammal. The blue whale, a negative match. The humpback, negative. The sperm whale, negative. Then, in 2016, scientists at Oregon State University found a connection. A rare, almost forgotten acoustic signature. The culprit was a whale, but one unlike any other. Balanoptera edeni, the Bruda's whale. They are the ghosts of the ocean. They dwell in the warm tropical waters, shunning the great polar migrations of their kin. They keep their distance from the shores of man. We know next to nothing about them, and it seems these phantoms speak in a dialect we mistook for alien interference. But why? Why forge exquisite design? This is not merely a song. It is a synthesis of long-range communication and high-fidelity echolocation. The low-frequency wave, a powerful pulse, travels vast distances, punching through the dense, layered fabric of the sea. The high-frequency shriek, riding atop it, provides fine detail resolution, a signature, a map, a message. The most profound clue, however, is the location. The calls are heard most clearly above the deepest point on Earth, the Mariana Trench. The hypothesis is staggering. The whales may be using the 11-kilometer deep abyss as a colossal natural resonator, a planetary megaphone. They cry into the void, and the trench walls focus and amplify their voice, launching the signal across 1,000 kilometers of the Pacific through a deep-sea sound channel. They are using the very geology of our world as a signal booster, creating a sub-oceanic internet of their own. And strangest of all, the sound is recorded year-round. This is no migratory stop. A population of these enigmatic whales is always here, constantly patrolling the edge of the abyss. It forces us to ask, what are they searching for in that eternal night? The mythic giant squid? Or is it possible their calls are not meant for their own kind? That they are speaking to something else, something even deeper, in a conversation we have only just begun to overhear. There is a profound paradox at the bottom of the world. The Mariana Trench, the deepest chasm on Earth, was long imagined to be a realm of absolute silence. It is, instead, one of the planet's most thunderous locations. When scientists first lowered a hydrophone into its crushing depths, they were stunned by an overwhelming level of anthropogenic noise. The sensitive instrument did not merely record the groan of tectonic plates or the calls of whales. It captured a rhythmic, whining drone, the sound of a single container ship's propeller churning the surface waters 7 miles above. It registered the sharp crack of underwater dynamite from construction projects in the distant Philippines. It felt the deep rumble of an earthquake in Taiwan, a tremor that traveled through the ocean to arrive in this. How is this possible? The answer lies in a phenomenon known as acoustic focusing. The trench is not a flat basin, but a vast, V-shaped canyon. Its immense, sloping walls act as a natural parabolic dish, a colossal ear turned toward the surface. Sound waves, instead of scattering and dissipating into the open ocean, are refracted by layers of water at different temperatures and densities, the thermocline. They are guided downwards, channeled and concentrated, relustic energy of the entire Pacific Ocean, and focuses it into one terrifying point. For the creatures of this hadal zone, it is an acoustic torment. Imagine a life lived in perpetual darkness. Eyes are useless, either atrophied or absent altogether. Survival depends entirely on a sensitivity to vibration, to pressure, to the subtle sounds that signal food, a mate, or a predator. Now imagine that world is saturated with a constant, grinding roar. We have transformed the planet's most remote sanctuary into an acoustic landfill. This ceaseless technogenic hum masks the approach of predators and disrupts the communication of cetaceans. Scientists now believe this very acoustic smog is what disorients deep-diving beaked whales, causing them to surface too rapidly, suffer decompression sickness, and die stranded on distant shores. We have deafened the ocean. Yet even after the sounds of icebergs, earthquakes, whales, and ships were identified and filtered out, a mystery remained. Approximately 10% of the recorded audio defied all explanation. These are the unclassified signals, what acousticians have come to call dark sounds. The first are short, rhythmic clicks. They echo with the cadence of Morse code or a dial-up modem. Yet they are too consistently patterned to be a natural phenomenon, and too distorted to be modern technology. The hypotheses range from an unknown species of colossal squid using a form of biological sonar at unimaginable frequencies, to the collective communication of a vast shrimp colony. The second is a series of dipiston. The rhythm is impossibly slow, a single beat every few minutes. Geologists theorize it could be the sound of methane hydrates. Under thousands of atmospheres of pressure, these bed, they burst with the force of a depth charge. The third, and most haunting, are the long, mournful moans. These sounds can last for nearly an hour, their pitch rising and falling in a sorrowful cadence, reminiscent of the singing dunes of a desert, but born of water and pressure. The prevailing theory suggests it is the sound of bottom currents, powerful and unseen, being forced through narrow, rocky gorges, playing the trench itself as if it were a planetary-scale pipe organ. In the deepest dark, beneath the weight of the world and the clamor of our civilization, the abyss sings. A song of immense geological forces, perhaps of life yet unknown, but above all, a song of profound and eternal loneliness. Why do these sounds provoke such an instinctual, animalistic dread? Why, when listening to the recording of a metallic storm from the deep, does the human pulse quicken and the palms begin to sweat? Evolutionary psychologists offer a chilling explanation. It is a memory, etched into our very being. In the natural world, low-frequency sounds, infrasound, have always signaled an inescapable danger. The rumble of an earthquake, the roar of an avalanche, the eruption of a volcano, the thunderous approach of a stampeding herd, or the footfalls of a colossal predator. Our brains are hardwired to fear the low hum of immense, indifferent power. The sounds emanating from the Mariana Trench fall precisely within this ancient spectrum of dread. They do not merely enter the ear, they seem to speak directly to the cerebellum, to the subconscious. They cause our internal organs to vibrate, a physical echo of a terror we cannot name. The metallic screech evokes a more modern horror. It is the sound of our own creations failing us. The groan of a sinking ship, the shriek of a submarine's hull surrendering to the pressure, the catastrophic failure of machinery in a factory. It is the sound of our armor, our technology, being breached. And then there is the sound known as the biotwang, a signal that speaks of something else entirely. It hints at an alien intel, generating a sound that is chillingly mechanical. We fear what we cannot see, and the ocean floor is the quintessence of the unseen. It is a darkness that stares back, and, as we have now learned, it is not silent. It communicates in a language of pressure, grinding, and shrieks. In the year 2012, the director James Cameron made a historic descent. He piloted the submersible Deep-Sea Challenger alone into the Challenger Deep. He spent 3 hours there. Later, in interviews, he described his feelings not as elation, but as a profound alienation. Lunar landscape, absolutely flat, lifeless, and he felt a silence he described as crushing. But Cameron was encased in a titanium sphere, insulated from the world outside. He could hear only the hum of his own life support, the sound of his own breathing. Had he been able to open the hatch, an impossibility, and listen to the abyss with his own ears, his psyche might not have survived. He was at the heart of a cannonade. Around him, in the invisible dark, tectonic plates groaned, whales shrieked in alien tongues, and the propellers of ships on the surface, 7 miles above, hummed a constant deep drone. He was in the epicenter of a storm, but was completely deaf to it. The abyss does not sleep. It has never slept. It is only human perception that attempts to impose a sense of peace upon it. In truth, it is the stage for the violent, brutal, and deafening life of the planet itself. These recordings, captured from the deepest point on Earth, are more than a scientific curiosity. They are a warning. They remind us that the Earth is a living, dynamic, and noisy organism. We exist on a fragile crust, suspended above a world of boiling magma and grinding plates. The sound we hear is the sound of tension, of a planet groaning under an immense load. The grinding of plates foretells catastrophe. The hum of propellers reveals that we have polluted the ocean not only with our plastic, but with our noise, shattering the ancient migratory paths and conversations of marine giants. And the anomalous signals remind us that we know less about our own planet's deepest heart than we do about the surface of the moon. We have deciphered some of the noises, attributing the bloop to an icequake and the biotwang to a minke whale. But with every mystery we solve, the abyss presents 1,000 more. It speaks in a language of immense power and geologic time, and we have only just begun to listen. But what of the 10% of sounds that defy all explanation? What of the vast, metallic shearing that echoes from the abyss, as if from the workings of some colossal subterranean machine? Is this the sound of the planet itself, stirring in preparation for some unknown event? Or is it merely an echo of our own industrial presence, returning from the void, distorted, terrifying, a reflection staring back from a warped mirror? What else could lurk at a depth of 11 kilometers, generating a symphony so powerful it causes the needles of our most sensitive instruments to tremble? The question persists. Should we continue to listen? Or are there doors in this world best left unopened, for fear of what might answer from the other side? The ocean is a keeper of profound secrets, but on rare occasion it whispers. And perhaps these whispers are a warning we would be wise to heed before the silence is broken forever.